Hello and welcome to the first series of video guides on maps in the ranked pool in Wargame Red Dragon by me, TechB. Specifically, I'm talking about the 1 versus 1 ranked maps, but I don't think I need to specify this. This and the future map guides will try to teach the basics of each map to the people new to 1 versus 1. We will take a look at the deployment areas, areas of importance, some general strategies and some other things. The first map that we will be looking at today is Highway to Seoul. Personally, I consider this map to be the best one in the ranked map pool. However, many players think the complete opposite of this, and I can see why. The map seems gigantic at first glance, and it seems like there are 5 separate lanes that you need to have strong presence in. Typically, new players think that the lanes are somewhere like here, 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 and here. However, more often than not, that is not really the case. The majority of the fighting will take place in the Delta area here, or Charlie Golf area here, with only tokens of units on the other side. Now let's take a look at the general area that you should be controlling almost every single game. We can immediately see that the red player is heavily advantaged in the Echo area, since the highlighted town should be yours all the time except if the enemy successfully heal a drop there. On the opposite side, we can see that for the blue player it's actually better to just call in the troops into the green highlighted area after Foxtrot has been captured, which can be an advantage of its own since it lets you bring a little bit more units to some other areas. Between Echo and Delta, we see that each of the players should be controlling their own towns, unless the enemy either destroy your troops with a helo or helo drop there. Generally, you want an ATGM squad and a recon squad there, since the town provides excellent zoning control, and countering the enemy ATGM team is often only possible by either completely smoking the town or moving recon close enough to spot the enemy when he is shooting. Now usually you can push your recon squad to either this or this position if the opposing player does not have recon there, and quickly destroy the missile team in the town with a couple of tanks after they shoot at you. Having recon there will also allow you to spot enemies in the forest line, which combined with the ATGM team in the town can be very devastating. Moving on to Delta, where most likely the majority of the fighting will take place. Most of the time you should have at least a decently sized group of units there. If you watch many videos of decent players playing against each other on this map, you will see that 80% of the grinding takes place in this area, which is why it is important to control or at least deny the enemy the control of the highway area around here. This area is excellent for placing recon ATGM vehicles, and ATGM infantry squads to get vision and to get some side shots on the enemy in this general area. It also can make pushing into this or this area much easier, although in this case the blue player has the advantage since taking control of the triangle forest here can be absolutely brutal for the red player. It allows the blue player to pretty much have firing lines on all the positions in Delta. On the other hand, while it's harder to push for the red player like this, controlling the right side of the highway can cut off the enemy reinforcements to Golf, which can be very annoying for the blue player. Typically, the Golf and Charlie areas tend to have less action than the left side of the map, since they are pretty much separated from the highway by the steep hills, and losing the Delta area may often be irrecoverable. Here, Tank and Recon Micro will play the most important role, since it has abundant tiny forests with large open areas in between, and this forest line here pretty much cuts the area into 2 separate ones, which is again very beneficial for tanks. Now let's look at the positions that heliborne and motorized troops can get into if uninterrupted. The colored marker lines represent the areas that motorized troops can get into for their respective player, while the sprayed lines represent the heliborne troops. Now let's combine the previous map with this one to get a better look. Instantly, we see why it is important to always start with at least some motorized troops, and sometimes with helicopters or at least a helo hunter plane. We see that by using only mechanized troops, you will have pretty much all the important areas taken by the enemy motorized forces, should they wish so. Now of course this only represents the area that they could take if they were completely unopposed by you. Typically, even in mechanized decks, you would have a cheap helicopter or some recon troops and wheels that would allow you to grab those key positions. And sometimes even a helo hunter plane to stop some nasty helo drops or just plain helos in key positions. Now note that failure to get those strategic positions can be very catastrophic for you. Knowing what positions are most valuable, we can now decide how to best allocate our troops. This will of course depend on where you want to attack. Personally, I typically use two general strategies for both sides, although in both cases I tend to favor the Delta highway attack. Looking from the blue player perspective, the first strategy we will look at is the before mentioned Delta highway attack. I like to send a small token force worth around 60 to 80 points to the right side, taking position with some infantry here and sending a light recon tank or just a light tank here or here. I typically also open with an AA helo or a helo hunter, and this is usually the only AA protection for my troops on that side for quite some time. Normally I send the AA helo to the area between Echo and Delta here to make sure that the enemy does not make an aggressive helo drop around this area and to secure this building with my recon squad, after which I would send it to the right. Also, after capturing Foxtrot, I spawn some new units into the green area here. Then I usually do either of these two things. Go for a straight up push down the highway, sending a smaller yet still significant force to the forest area here, usually somewhere around 150 to 200 points worth of units, while attempting to take full control of the area around the highway. After taking control, this allows me to take this forest and push further into this forest, and perhaps even this building here. If you successfully do this, this should really win you the Delta sector for the rest of the game, and pretty much the game itself. Now this is a more risky approach, since if the enemy also has a significant force in the highway area coming there, the fighting can become very awkward. The other way to attack middle would be to simply take control of this area around the highway here and simply support your main attack into the Delta from this forest with an aim to get control of this general area. This town and this town. Now this way things would usually result in a grind, which is less risky. Another way to attack, which I personally rarely use because I usually play more mechanized heavy decks, would be to make a more aggressive faster push, concentrating on the area left of middle here. But I would still suggest having a decent presence in the highway area. Using some helos and motorized transports, you can helo drop in the orange areas here and perhaps even reinforce them with motorized troops highlighted in pink, although the motorized troops have a much higher chance of getting destroyed. Now the main mechanized force would still attack from the forest here, but with more focus on the area around here. The aim remains pretty much the same. Take this area and attempt to get that building. Maybe try to take control of this triangle forest. It's just that taking the other triangle forest here is also possible now. Of course, also don't forget about sending some forces to the right, highlighted in purple. The other strategy is attacking Golf Charlie. The main difference here from the previous plans is that I typically like to still send a significant force to the Delta area, a recon to the town here, and around 200 points worth of units around this area, mostly to the forest, but still having something around highway, still very beneficial. Again, send some troops to the green area here after you capture Foxtrot. For this push, I would strongly suggest helo dropping a squad into the orange area to secure it for your future motorized troops, highlighted in pink. In the meantime, your helo should delay the enemy troops getting into these positions. You should also send some motorized troops here to secure this forest. Now your main push should go down this road, and you should really brute force your way into this area here, so your infantry and other stuff can get into the forest here and here. Your tanks should go first to soak some damage and kill enemy tanks. If you have a super heavy, I would suggest smoking around here just as the super heavy arrives, and if you don't, smoking around here. Then perhaps smoke around here to try to push more troops to the right and then attack from 3 different points at the same time. This should pretty much net you these important areas, unless the enemy also sent a large amount of units towards this side. Sometimes it's also worth considering flanking with some infantry to the left, highlighted in light blue, although pushing only with infantry through this side can be very situational, so it's not really a necessary attack. In the meantime, you should try to hold the Delta Forest and Highway as much as possible, and if you fail to push further than this area on the right side, I would suggest prioritizing the Delta area again. Looking at the red side, it's pretty much the same, except that attacking Charlie Echo is way more lucrative due to the way forests are positioned there. The highway push is less relevant to you due to the absence of the triangle forest, and you should always try to occupy the town on the right. First, let's look at the delta attack that you can do. Send 60 to 80 points worth of units to the left side, like we did on the blue player side. Some infantry here and a light tank or 2 in here or here. I would strongly suggest helo dropping some infantry to the town here and sending an ATGM squad there after you've secured it. Send the reinforcements highlighted in green after you've secured Bravo. Again, having strong contingent in the highway area here is very beneficial for you, since taking this forest area here will become much easier due to the firing angles from these positions. Typically, I send troops to all 3 forest areas here, mostly infantry and some tanks to support them. Put a recon squad, sometimes with an ATGM squad in this town. Then I usually try to take the town here, smoke the position here to avoid the enemy fire from this position, and move in with your recon or infantry squads from this and this position, highlighted in light blue. Try to have some fire support in the forest line here, supporting your infantry. After, try to push to the forest edges in all 3 forests here, here and here. From this point you can try to take the main delta forest, highlighted here. Try to attack from the 3 forests at the same time. Send infantry on attack move and have fire support and tanks at the edges of the 3 forests supporting them. If you have a strong presence in the highway area, also try to move in with some fire support to this position, and perhaps even from this position here. If you don't have a strong presence in the highway area, smoke along this highlighted light blue line to protect yourself from these angles. Also smoke along this line to protect your infantry from potential fire here. After taking control of the main delta forest, you can also try to take the town here, attempt to push out the enemy out of Echo completely, and perhaps even push into the blue highlighted area here to threaten the enemy reinforcement routes. Another way to execute this attack would be to helo drop in the orange areas here and perhaps here, and then reinforce them with the motorized troops highlighted in pink. In this plan, you would play more defensively in the highway area, but the rest will remain pretty much the same. This is a riskier strategy though, because you can never know how many AA helos or helo hunter planes your enemy brought. The other attack plan is obviously attacking Charlie Golf area. Helo drop in the orange areas here and here. Put your recon or ATGM squad into this building. send around 200 to 250 points worth of units to this general area here. Remember, losing Delta is not acceptable. Also, this town here can be a very good spot for your ATGM infantry if the enemy is pushing you hard. Now moving on to the actual attack on the left. Try to delay the enemy a little bit by placing your helicopter from the infantry that you dropped to this position to rocket the troops coming up this highway. Secure these two forts with your motorized troops in the meantime. Now your main armored push should just brute force your way into this area here. Having a lot of tanks is really beneficial here for this reason. It will allow your infantry to take the crucial positions here, here and here. This would pretty much guarantee you the Gulf area. Now if your push failed, you can also try to push with some infantry from the light blue highlighted area here. After taking control of Gulf, again, just like on the blue side, concentrate on Delta again. Of course, you don't always succeed in executing your attack, so you may have to grind the rest of the battle not from the position you expected yourself to be in. Highway to Seoul is a very good map because it's easy to attack Echo, Golf, and Charlie after the initial stages of the battle are over. Of course, provided that you didn't lose control of Delta, in which case the game is going to be very hard for you. Now, let's take a quick look at the game I played against Thomas Wildak from Wargame Bootcamp Discord. Now, Thomas wasn't a top tier player like the likes of Razzmann or Putin, but he wasn't a complete noob either. Using my Delta push strategy from the blue side, I managed to completely take control of all important positions quickly and swiftly won the battle. Now, this was a rather low tier match using the lowest tier nations and coalition. It was a Red Dragons versus US match with myself playing US, so don't take it too seriously. It's just here to demonstrate how it all works in a match. So in this map, what I did was just execute the Delta highway attack that I talked about before. I opened with a very large amount of infantry, let's say it like that. I had somewhere around 15 squads of infantry, I think. Just 2 tanks. Single chaparral, long range, infrared AA, and a Stinger to support it in a Bradley. And just 2 recon infantry squads. Also had a DAP to obviously take control of this area to deny the enemy the possibility of having units over here. Pretty usual stuff for me. After securing this area pretty much, as I said in the tutorial before, I tried to send it to Gulf to also protect the units there. Shoot down the Mi-2 with only 1 missile. After firing the missile, I immediately turn off the Stinger in order not to waste the missiles, because, well, you never know how many helicopters the enemy might have. Quick engagement in the middle, pretty much had nothing there, so it quickly got annihilated. Also, I sort of fucked up in the beginning of the match because I forgot to send a CV to Foxtrot, but it's okay, it was only like a minute late, so it doesn't matter that much. I also try to always start with a mortar because it can do so many things for you. In this case, I tried to smoke off the potential attack from here to deny the enemy fire support coming from this area. Slowly take control of the highway, take the areas here, put the Bradley in a position here because it's a recon ATGM vehicle. It won't be spotted by non-recon units when it's firing at this long ranges. Normal stuff. Pretty much nothing here, and Thomas also pretty much had nothing here, so It's most of the times the games won't have many units in the Charlie Golf area. Engagement in the middle. So I noticed the tank that Thomas has here, and I tried to move in the Bradley to kill it, but I think I kind of fucked up because I didn't tackle it, but Thomas's tank misses twice, so it all worked out in the end. Take control of the triangle force here, and yeah, Thomas is fucked. There's pretty much nothing he can do. Get some nice shots on the tomahawks with the Bradley, even kill one, and then yeah, he has no chance. Take control of the town here. Tries to bomb me, but Bradley kills another tank. And after this, I try to take control of Echo, which Thomas had like a single squad of infantry there. He calls in a T90, but the game is pretty much over. There is not much that he can do, and after this, I just call in the CVs to finish the game faster. The tank here, if it was an Amex, then like the whole push of Thomas here would pretty much die, even the WZ551. So you see how important a single light tank can be. Kill the APCs with my chopper. Also, it's kind of a disrespect play here. I could push into Bravo area here with some infantry and light tanks and actually kill his CV. And after this we can just 10 speed this game. Not much happens. Thomas tries to put himself back in the position in Echo and Delta and fails in both cases, and I take control of Golf completely and even push myself a little bit into Charlie. But let's watch the game until the end anyway. Also buy a heavy APs to deal with the bombers, because they kind of get annoying. The little bomber bombs his recon tank. Yeah, I think that was like full HP and just died to the bomb. Pretty funny. Yeah, not much happening. Then Thomas goes for his final push here, but it's too late and also fails. So that was the game. As you can see, flawless execution. Lastly, I want to talk about the common cheese that happens on this map. This huge area on the right is obviously a problem. However, usually you can spot a heli Russian coming well before it hits you by using a cheap recon helicopter or a plane. This should give you a decent amount of time to prepare yourself. Another common cheese strategy is rushing things down the highway. Now this one should be easy to counter by simply having units down the highway and playing around the edges. Don't ever leave the highway open or you will regret it, because very often the enemy will just send a bunch of units down the highway and they'll get into your spawn or the second spawn very quickly, and they'll kill the CV there, and perhaps you'll even lose the game because of this. Spawn trapping on the blue side is also common. This can be sort of tough to deal with if the enemy manages to land a CV in Foxtrot. However, if he doesn't send a Helo Hunter plane into that area, then just spawn a 4-stack of cheap units there, and when the plane is just about to arrive, spawn AA. This should typically deal with that. The red side also has a similar problem, however it's easier to deal with as there is less cover in your spawn zone there. But the red side has to look out for a base rush coming from this area here. Usually it's done with a bunch of cheap fast units, so the enemy will usually Play normally and do this afterwards. Just place some transports in those positions to preemptively warn you about such dangers, and then it shouldn't be really a problem to deal with. Lastly, the only thing left to talk about is a general healer rush. For this, I can only tell you to scout at the healer rush well before it hits you to give yourself time to prepare. Keep the distance with AA and try to snipe helicopters from long range. Soak damage with your cheap infantry and transport. You can also try soaking damage with tanks if the enemy doesn't have many ATGM helicopters. Look out for enemy ATGM planes trying to snipe your AA. Call in an ASF to preemptively warn you of those planes. Keep it safe and try to bait the enemy planes into your AA by using your ASF, obviously. And lastly, keep your eyes open for another attack, since often people like to send a smaller healer rush directly to the base, while the bigger one distracts you. Well, I'd like to thank you all for watching this guide on Highway to Seoul. If you want to check out some Wargame discords, I will have links in the video description. Hope you have a good day.